Okay, you've got a great idea and you want to launch your product. During this video, we're going to talk about some really important things that you can do to make your life a little easier if you have that idea and you want to bring it to market. Okay, everybody, I'm back at inventRight TV, and today I've got a very special guest and a good friend that's commercializing, bringing his ideas to market. So, welcome, Martin, to inventRight TV. I think you've been on it before. I'm sure you have, right?
Yeah, I think we've done a video or two. I'm not sure about the new InventRight TV, but I have been on here, and it's a pleasure to be on here. And thank you so much, Stephen.
Well, you do such a great job, and I know that you do a lot of things. So let's start at the very beginning, Martin. Tell us a little bit about you and what you've been doing in your career.
Well, actually, so I didn't start in inventing. I was actually in finance and real estate, and I, own my own mortgage companies. I've run commercial loan departments and subsidiaries for banks here in the metro area of Nashville, and but I felt like I wasn't doing what I wanted to do, and I wasn't really happy, even though I was doing very well monetarily. My heart just wasn't in it, and I finally, kind of made the change. I found InventRight back in 2017, 2018, became a student, and really jump started my career in inventing. And since then, I have a granted patent for the first wearable drone, which is actually also a taser drone, which I'm still working on monetizing that. That's more of a military type of a device. So that gets a little more complex. But through your tutelage and through learning a lot in the InventRight, course, I learned how to identify the right types of products and the type of risk mitigation that should go into the thought pattern when you want to really get a licensing deal and bring it to market, because all these things matter. And so, yeah, so since then, I've really gotten a foothold into the toy industry because, one of the things, again, I think I learned from you is if you really want to be successful in the long term, you're better off if you can stay in one industry because it's really about building relationships.
Okay.
And that's what I've managed to do. So it's been
Okay.
been a lot of that.
InventRight co-founder Andrew Krause here. This break will only take a second. Consider joining our Become a Professional Inventor program. It is only $349 a month. We'll make sure everything is done right on your project. You have great marketing materials. You're getting in the top companies. Not only that, we'll guarantee that you can get into companies, and our negotiation coach will provide unlimited negotiation support during your membership with us. So if you'd like to close that lucrative licensing deal at only $349 a month, please book a call with us. Go to inventright.com and book a call. Now back to the show.
We're going to get to that in a minute because from drones to the toy industry, it's pretty far apart. But but before we get there, so you've got this successful business and you want to do something that feeds your soul, inventing. So how do you find time to do both?
It's you know what? It comes down to will. I mean, so I have two businesses. One of them is I've pretty much gotten out of the finance side of it,
Okay.
and I owned a mortgage company, and I dissolved that company, but I still have another company called I&I Holdings, which is for my real estate kind of concerns. For investing and also some market kind of analysis type stuff, which I do love. I love the economy and learning about all aspects of it. So I still do that, but my main focus on a day to day is my inventing and my projects. So that's really what I focus on the most.
Okay, so you've got this great idea with drones, which it's kind of amazing in itself, and I remember your product too. But you're having success in a whole nother industry at the moment.
Yeah.
So why did you switch from that industry over to toys?
Simple, simple. Right back to that risk mitigation. The drone is highly technical. It's very expensive. When you want to start prototyping, creating proof of concept, it gets very, very costly. As you know, I mean, to the tooling involved alone is hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Okay.
So what I ended up doing was saying, okay, where can I actually? This may sound funny, but I would go into a dollar store, right? and go down the toy aisle and look and say, how do these people manage to come up with a product that can be sold for $1 and be here and be marketable? And I would just stand there and, scratch my head and look and think. And I started to really try to find concepts that were very easy and cheap to make, no moving parts if possible. And that really became the focus. And that's where toys. And then what I would say about toys too is that toys is one of those industries that is open to open innovation and to product developers. So you make your job a little bit easier, even though, I mean, toys, it's not so much about solving a problem. It's more about novelty and wow factor. And that in itself can be very, very challenging. Sometimes it's easier to solve a problem than to create a really popular toy.
Well, you've got a product that looks wonderful. We're going to show it up on the screen. You're up for an award. We'll get to that a little bit later too. Don't let me forget about that because I want everybody to vote for you. But tell me, Martin, how did you come up with it? Because I think it's a pretty cool thing and it's done extremely well. It looks wonderful and everybody is loving it. So how did you come up with it and what is it?
Okay. So did you talk about Cornhole Shootout, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So this is really a great story because it really goes back to what we learn at InventRight and how do we maximize our um, our connections
Okay.
and dealing with people. So what ended up happening was I had developed a product which was a pool toy, and it was kind of a basketball hoop. It was very unique in how it was. I don't even remember the name of it right now because it didn't get that much traction, but in the process of reaching out to companies, I came to this one company and I showed it to them. And like I said, it's about building relationships. And they were very open with me and they started to give me ideas. And they said to me, Martin, if there was some way you could put two games in one, that would really be hot. And all of a sudden, like a light went off in my head, like, oh my gosh, wait a minute. If I just, so I scrambled, I came back, I redesigned everything, I came back to them, and in the end, they didn't even take it, but they liked it. But that was really the spark that created the idea of a cornhole shootout. The only other thing that I would add to that, Stephen, is in a lot of things that I think about toys, it's about what's evergreen and looking for evergreen concepts. What cons
Okay.
because you know this better than I do, right? I can come up with this great toy, but its life cycle may be 3 years, 5 years if I'm lucky.
All
And how
right.
much royalty am I actually going to create during that period of time? So where are the evergreen concepts? What is something the consumer always wants and will be there? So I spend a lot of time in that space just thinking about this type of thing. So creating a basketball hoop with a cornhole, two completely evergreen concepts and ones that will be around 10 years from now. Hopefully,
Uh,
this new game is something that will attach itself to
That's really smart.
it.
You're right about a lot of products have a very short life cycle. And if you can find the evergreens and combine them, use that mix and match. I love that. Taking two things and bringing them together. Martin, how important was it to have that relationship for them to give you input? Because they kind of told you what
Super,
they wanted.
super important. Super, super important. I stress this to all our students every day, as I even did today. It's, you have to not be so transactional. You have to be thinking about building the relationship. And there's ways of doing that and how you carry yourself and how you conduct yourself. That's something we teach a lot here at InventRight. And yeah, it's super important. No one's going to give you the time of day if you want to build a relationship.
So when do you ask for that? I mean, it's hard to ask for it if you submit the first idea. You might be asked for input, but when do you start to build that relationship where you can start asking, hey, what are you guys looking for?
Totally. I think you need to be, once again, it's one of those caveats of if you can be in the same industry, after you've pitched the same company 2 to 3 times, and if your products are pretty well thought out and pretty novel, then they start to give you attention and they want to deal with you. So yeah, I would say after a couple of times. Now, once again, you can be more aggressive. And in this case, I think I probably was, no, I had submitted more than one product to them. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah,
So a couple things, everyone. Martin just talked about finding an industry that's a little bit open. Toy industries is open. He talked about finding an evergreen, which is really, really cool. I think it's really smart, great tip. Combining two things, wonderful, getting some input, building relationships. But tell us a little bit about reaching out to these companies for a minute, because a lot of people are struggling with that. And I know we talk a lot about it at InventRight. We teach it, everything else. But in the toy industry, it's a little bit different, though, isn't it? Are they a little bit more open? And how did you reach out to the company that has licensed your new product?
Okay, so that's an interesting story. So I will go through, like any inventor and what we learn, the typical reach out process. You build your hit list, you find the companies that are a good fit, and then you reach out to them and you do your best. Again, try not to be so transactional. What I have learned to do over time is trying to be a little bit more creative about my approach. And when you build enough relationships in the business, people get to know you. And in this case, for Cornhole Shootout, I'm not going to lie to you. I thought I had gotten to exhaust all my options.
Okay.
So I ended up looking and saying, okay, how can I think about this differently? There was a guy named Matt Nuccio with Design Edge. He's well known in the industry, and I had never spoken to him before. And I said, I'm going to give it a shot. I know this is not what he does, but he knows a lot of people. Maybe he can find placement. So I reached out to him. We had a meeting. I showed him my whole portfolio, which was at least a dozen different products. He liked at least four of them, but he keyed in on Cornhole Shootout. And he was like, no, this is really hot. We need to work on this. And then we basically just started to develop a bit of an agreement of how it would look like us
Okay.
working together. But basically, he was going to try to find placement for the product.
All right.
In the end, I will say this, I did not pay Matt any money to do this, because in the end, he was able to find someone in his ecosystem that was looking for the specific type of product, and
Okay.
then Matt ended up being the manufacturer. So it became a win-win for everybody.
Got it. All right. That's really interesting. So the company he found, we know who that is. I mean, it's really it, you guys, it's a pretty small industry. Everybody kind of knows each other. Can you tell that story too? Because David is part of our world too, right? He was part of our program, and I'm going to have an interview with the person, the company that's actually, I think, marketing and bringing it to market. Correct, David?
Yeah, David Becker. Yeah. So a
Yeah.
design company, it's a great story, and I think I see it, and I'm going to add something to this, which you probably don't even know, Stephen, but it's really a testament to InventRight. I came in as a student, and how would you ever imagine that my licensee ended up he was also a student of InventRight some time ago, and this is where he learned the bones in the business was through InventRight. And
Yeah.
then now he's gone from inventor and he's actually venturing and doing his own thing. And the other thing I wanted to add to that, which I think is frigging hilarious, is I have a student who's pitching a product, okay, which is kind of like a dash mat type of thing, anti kind of glare type of
Yeah.
technology. And we're communicating with a company, which is one of the third largest companies in the space. And the guy we're dealing with is an InventRight student or was a previous InventRight student. So it's like we're scattered everywhere, people in this industry, they've learned a lot. So yeah, it's really a great story. And yeah, David's really good. And plus we had a lot in common too. So when we talk, we had this foundation of InventRight, of not just from a camaraderie, but also a knowledge base of our understanding of the licensing industry.
Yeah. When I first talked to David, he had another business that he was running, right? And he wanted to get in the space of licensing and ideas, and I was a little surprised when this came back around. He's got a company, he's licensing ideas, and it's like, okay, you guys, it's really amazing. It is a small industry. A lot of people know each other. It's all about building relationships. It's about being out there enough to kind of spend enough time to build those relationships, because you're sooner or later you're going to be meeting the same people, I think. People don't. It's smaller than you think it is, but you have to be I think, part of the industry, but be a positive light in the industry too. How important is it that to be that person that has the right energy, the right attitude working with companies?
Super important. I would say, I mean, that could be sometimes even more than the product. I mean, I don't think inventors think enough about that. And again, it's not so much about being transactional. Um, Doing little things makes a big difference. I'm just going to throw this out there. Can you imagine? There's a Goliath. Everyone knows Goliath, big toy company. One of their main offices is in Texas. And remember a couple of years ago, they had that big ice storm, right? Everything froze over. The grid was down. No one had power. And I remember thinking about the product development girl, a woman that's there, and I was thinking, wow, I'm going to shoot her an email,
Oh.
and she was never really responsive to me before because she's very busy. She's got, I mean, a million submissions a day. But I reached out to her and said, hey, I was thinking about you and knowing I hope you and your family are doing well or whatever, whatever. And she responded very quickly. And how many people did that? How many people? Is she going to remember me now? You know what I mean? And it's about being human and being authentic. And I think that really makes a difference. So sometimes we have to see past our own product and our own desires, our own intentions for what we're doing to make a big difference. So yes, mindset is huge.
I'm really glad you said that because sometimes we think it's all about our product, it's all about us, but it's really all about them. You have to start with that, and they do appreciate that. And because I do think when you invest in them, right, they will invest in you, kind of.
Absolutely.
And okay, so your product is out. It's wonderful, by the way, and you're up for an award, correct? I mean, tell us about that. What is that all about?
So yeah, I'm super elated and ecstatic. I can't believe that we actually got nominated for a Toy of the Year award in the outdoor toy category. As you know, Stephen, there are a lot of awards out there, and Cornhole Shootout is one, Mom's Choice, and some others that I can't even remember. But the reality is this is like the Oscar of the industry. It doesn't get any higher than this. So to even be nominated in itself is a huge win. Sales are doing very, very well now, and I'm sure they'll increase. We're already an Amazon choice. We're available in Target, Bed Bath and Beyond, Walmart, Amazon. So yeah, no, it's huge, and I think it's really going to be it's awesome, and it's going to be so much more of a launching pad to the success of the product. So yeah, very excited.
I think it's going to be around for a long time. I think you're really smart. I think you did a good job. Congratulations, Martin, on coming up with something great. But congratulations on just being a positive force in the industry and helping so many of our students at InventRight. And I'm going to have all the information down below for people to vote. You have to vote. Come together, vote for your fellow inventor, vote for Martin so he can win this award. Uh, I think it's amazing.
Well,
Absolutely
thank you so much.
amazing.
Thanks so much, Stephen. I appreciate your support. Everything that I've learned, so much it has to do with what I've learned from you and InventRight. So I can't say enough about it, really. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Martin. Everybody, thank you for watching this video. Look for the information down below. If you're looking for a great Christmas gift, there it is. Buy it, but also vote. It's coming up for that award for Martin. Martin, thank you very much for being on InventRight TV.
Thanks, Stephen. Appreciate it.